Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to episode 2 of the Scrapyard. My name's Aiden, and this is my co-host Jake. We're here to talk all things MMA. Jake, how was your weekend, man?
Dude, it's going great. Labor Day weekend, long weekend, no work tomorrow. Can't complain. Life is going well. No fights, unfortunately, but there's still plenty of things, combat sports going on. We'll talk about it all today. We'll be back next week to go back over the UFC Paris card, which we'll talk about today. But I think there's a lot of good, fun stuff for us to talk about here on this lovely Sunday. This video will probably be dropping Monday, so make sure you tune in as soon as it's posted. Subscribe, and make sure you get those notifications for the next one. Leave a like and a comment down below so you can get what you want from us next week and moving forward. But Aiden, like you said, it's a great weekend. How's yours going?
Not bad. Friday night I got a little too intoxicated, and I kind of ruined my Saturday because of it, but that's okay. You did say long weekend, and it would be, but I am going into work tomorrow because it's double time. I can't pass that up. That being said, I'm enjoying my day off today. Obviously, we're going to talk about some fight stuff, so that's always fun to do. But yeah, not a bad weekend overall.
Absolutely. I think a lot of combat sports fans were fiending for some UFC. We didn't necessarily get it, but we found some combat in some other ways, some really fun events. I know we want to talk about it. Aiden, why don't you take us into the first event that we're going to talk about here today?
Let's talk about Misfits Boxing, and I think Misfits Boxing and MMA now, apparently, which the first fight we're going to talk about is Dillon Danis versus Warren Spencer. Got a beautiful picture here of him Dillon Danis submitting him. This was a mismatch on the ground, I'm going to be honest. Dillon Danis, despite people hating him, I'm one of them, I don't like him. Elite Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, very, very good jiu-jitsu practitioner, and Spencer is known as a striker. It was very clear in the beginning. Danis's hands were down. He got caught by a couple punches, and then next thing you know, he had him in a stomach down guillotine. So very interesting, but entertaining to say the least. I mean, it was a 15-second fight, I think, something like that.
Yeah, I mean, he finished that on the 15-second counter. It was quick. I mean, like you mentioned, his hands were down, that being Dillon Danis fighting the boxer Warren Spencer, who was saying, please, Dillon, don't take me down. I mean, I think the interview on Ariel Helwani was really entertaining because Dillon Danis didn't want Warren Spencer coming onto the program, and he used his time to hype up the fight. He used that time better on Ariel Helwani than he did actually in the cage or in the ring, because, of course, this was a boxing event. But Dillon Danis, I actually thought he looked pretty comfortable for all 6 seconds he was standing for. And then Spencer clinched up for who knows what reason. And
I mean, shout out Spencer for being willing to do an MMA fight against a guy who has great ground game. People forget, man. People forget.
Yeah, they do. And I mean, it's been a while. I think it was like 6 years since Dillon Danis last competed in MMA, and he's already calling out the UFC shot. I think he's 3-0 now officially.
Yeah. I mean, here's the thing.
What do you really think, though? Like, do you think he can cut it out in the UFC?
If his striking was better and his striking defense was better, I think he has the ground game to maybe win a couple fights. Like his Brazilian jiu-jitsu is really that good. Like, truth be told, I think he probably could win some fights in the UFC. Could he be a top contender? No. You don't go to the top being really good in just one thing and horrible in everything else, right? I mean, how many guys are champions right now that are Brazilian jiu-jitsu black belts but can't strike? None. It doesn't happen. Even Charles Oliveira, he was known for his grappling. The striking leveled up throughout his career, and he got to a point where he could outstrike people. I mean, he outstruck Michael Chandler. So you got to be able and willing to work on every facet of your game. And I don't think Dillon Danis cares.
No, and I think the thing with Dillon Danis is if he made it to the UFC, whether it's Contender Series or otherwise, he would sell that fight. I mean, he's someone that would get a lot of eyes. Now, the online debate, and I'm not a black belt in jiu-jitsu, so I don't want to speak too technically on it, but I mean, the debate online is anybody can be a black belt. Is he really top 100 in the world? Is he really truly elite? I think that's the question that needs to be answered. Obviously, he has the connections that he does between his antics and his relationship with Conor McGregor and all that he has going on. But I do think it would be a fun question. What I'd love to see is him back in the ring or in a cage. I'm sure we'll talk about it here in a second, but I think a matchup that he had in the GFL, guy named Tony Ferguson, who we'll be talking about here in a second, might make sense. Whether that's boxing or MMA, that's a different story. But I think what happens next for Dillon Danis will be interesting. He's talking up a big game. So I'd like to see him get in there soon.
I mean, if he really wants to do anything with his MMA career, he has to fight often and soon. And I think that he just kind of cares about money and antics and followers, and I think that that's kind of his whole. I think that's his whole point. As a jiu-jitsu white belt myself, I don't think anybody can become a black belt. I mean, maybe if you go about, the Moneyberg situation, which I don't know if you know who that is, but it's a guy who basically just paid his way to a black belt. But if you get a black belt by legit means, you're a great fighter. I've rolled with black belts and they could kill me, like no problem, if they wanted to. And he does seem really good. Granted, I haven't seen him go against, a top, someone who I know is a top tier black belt like Paul Craig or a Gordon Ryan. But I'm excited to see what happens next. I still don't like the guy very much, but let's move on to the next topic, or the next fight, if you will. And this one made a lot of people extremely happy. El Kakui got a win.
Oh yeah, first one in what, 8 years?
It's been a long time. He was on like an 8 or 9 fight losing streak, I think. It's been a while.
Yeah. And I will say,
he dropped to his knees. He cried. It was a feel-good moment for sure. Early stoppage, no doubt.
And this was an event where we saw multiple standing 8 counts. Why that wasn't a standing 8 count, I will never understand. I mean, Salt Papi's instant reaction to as soon as that fight ended, it gives you everything you need to know about the refereeing there. Now, I will say, I did mention Tony Ferguson versus Dillon Danis next. Dillon Danis might be running from him, though, because Eddie Hall, the strong man who's up over 300 pounds, who was in the ring with Dillon Danis.
Yeah, what was going on with that?
That was interesting because, honestly, you watch Tony Ferguson perform 20 minutes later, and it's like, yeah, I would run from Tony Ferguson, too, if I'm Dillon Danis, because he didn't look great to start. He had to get the cobwebs off. He had to figure out the timing and the pace of a boxing match. But as soon as he started moving forward, T-Ferg, El Kakui, I mean, that was the good old Tony Ferguson. That's the Tony Ferguson that was saying Khabib was running from him.
Yeah, I mean, if that Tony Ferguson fights Dillon Danis in a boxing match, he wins. I think Dillon Danis's boxing is so bad. Like, I feel like I could beat him.
Grappling would be interesting.
In an MMA fight, a grappling fight, things change. Obviously, Tony's got pretty good grappling.
Very good. Yeah.
So the question is, how good is Dillon Danis's grappling compared to like a UFC fighter? I don't know, but that could be very interesting, I think.
I mean, hear me out. They do 3 rounds one night. 1 round's grappling, 1 round boxing, 1 round MMA. Misfits. I'm not a matchmaker, but you can hire me.
Yeah. Okay, yeah. So I did just look up Dillon Danis. He is 18-16 in Flow Grappling, which is a jiu-jitsu organization.
And shout out Flow Grappling. They do really good stuff. I mean, let's be honest. A 500 record is better than what I can do. A 500 record isn't anything that's going to be, earth-shattering either. So take that for what you will.
Guys, he's gone against Gordon Ryan. He lost. He's gone against Jake Shields and lost. But I mean, he's going against some of the best in the world, so you can't be like, can't hit on it too much. But he hasn't fought, at least for Flow Grappling, since 2017.
Yeah, I mean, he hasn't competed in quite a while, just in general. He's been doing his own things, and good for him. He's back now.
Yeah.
And like you said before, I think he needs to fight.
I think we book him versus Tony.
And I think that would be great. I mean, and granted, we just talked about how Tony looked better than ever and back to his old self. Let's also put it in perspective. As good as Salt Papi has been in the influencer boxing sphere,
it's influencer boxing.
Yep. He's an influencer boxer. He's a guy that started making TikTok and kick videos and stuff, and he's got some good KO power. But in his bouts in the past, we've seen him slow down throughout fights if he doesn't get that knockdown early, and it was very clear in that 3rd round that he was slowing down. Just shout out Tony Ferguson. I mean, he did fight a YouTube boxer, right? That's who's in front of him, but he broke him. He showed him exactly who he was and the level.
He still did fight someone with more traditional boxing experience than him.
Yeah, first ever boxing match. So it was great to see T. Ferg get back on the train, keep it going. Obviously, like you said, it was a feel-good moment for not just MMA fans, but combat fans around the world.
Oh, yeah. Now, the main event of that evening, Darren Till versus Luke Rockhold. A crazy knockout. You hear the commentators go, "Why is the ref counting?" Because for some reason the ref didn't count when Salt Poppy was still perfectly, like, he was just showing up and then went like this, like after. Luke Rockhold is like laying back on his own legs and he's very clearly out, and the ref goes 1, 2, like what? It's some weird reffing in this event, but crazy. Darren Till he might have a future in boxing. You know, I'm not saying he could be a top pro boxer, but at least in this influencer ex MMA space, you know, who's going to beat him? I think we book him versus Jake Paul. I think that would be a good one.
Yeah, and you know, that's something that some of the post fight presser questions were circulating around. You know, who is next for you, Darren? And Jake Paul's name came up, and he said, "Look, let's be honest. Like, Jake Paul's not fighting me. Like, I don't have a big enough name. He's like, I want to fight people that want to fight me. He's like, I'm not going to beg. And you know what, Darren?
No, absolutely.
Respect. You know your value. Respect, and it's clear you can sell out a British stadium or anywhere probably in the UK with ease. You are Misfits boxing face. I get it. Whether there's probably, I'm sure, a million different options. Jake Paul's definitely the best. But with that said, I think for Darren Till, he's only 32 years old, and sure, he's boxing Luke Rockhold, who's 40, 41 years old. And I mean, again, you got to take it with a grain of salt. This was Luke Rockhold's first true boxing match. But I think Darren Till needs to be pushing to get back to the top level. Whether that's going to be in the UFC, maybe it's striking that he likes. I mean, obviously he's always been a striker. Maybe that
left hand of his is a nuke.
Yeah.
It's been a nuke since his early career.
It's dangerous. So maybe it's the fact that he doesn't have to grapple that's kind of unlocked this next level of Darren Till. So whether it's the UFC, whether it's boxing, whether it's something like karate combat, I want to see Darren Till completely continue to evolve and continue to elevate. He's got plenty of time left in the prime of his career to make some noise. So if it's not Jake Paul, no worries. I don't know who the answer is for the next step in boxing above Luke Rockhold. Yeah, KSI. All I know is he needs to stay in the UK, and he'll keep selling out arenas. And if he wanted to, this performance shows that he might still have it in him to make it back to the UFC. If it's not the UFC, though, there's other combat sports for him.
Yep, absolutely. And I know you wanted to talk a little bit, because I didn't watch this event personally, but I know you wanted to talk about Dirty Boxing 3.
Yeah.
I got a photo here of ex-UFC fighter Rosenstrike winning the belt. Now, I just want to say real quick here, this is the ugliest belt I've ever seen. It is a terrible looking belt, in my opinion. Now, I'm going to pass it off to you because you're the one who actually kind of watched this event. So, give me your thoughts on this.
Yeah, I mean, and I've been in with Dirty Boxing since the very beginning. I mean, their first event, I was there live at the Hangar Regatta in Miami. It's a fun, really, really fun time, great experience. Every seat in that little hangar is a really great seat. So whether you get the cheapest seat in the house or a first row seat, you've got a great seat. The food there is awesome. It's in a perfect location. But I'll be honest, what was missing in that first event was the atmosphere, the environment. And I'll be honest, the second and third event has still missed that a little bit. We need some more diehard fans in that stadium. We need some more noise, because these events have been unbelievable. I mean, there's no other word to use besides it's been true violence. And let's talk about it. For those of you at home that might not know what Dirty Boxing is, essentially, these are folks in a ring, kind of like the bare knuckle ring, pretty small, condensed, and they're in there with MMA gloves. I believe it's 5-ounce gloves instead of the 4-ounce that the UFC uses. But regardless, they're in the smaller gloves, not the boxing gloves, and they're fighting under boxing rules. You can still use elbows. And if you earn a grounded position, if you knock your opponent down, as opposed to being an 8-count like traditional boxing, you can follow up with ground and pound. So this makes for some really fun striking matches. You see spinning elbows and back fists and flying Superman punches and all sorts of fun techniques, which really shows the versatile striking arts in a manner that's really good for the crowd. So talking about Dirty Boxing as a whole, we need more people to go to these events. We need to get that hype in there because it's fun. And this card from top to bottom, or really bottom to top, was loaded with stars. UFC names, Bellator names. I don't have the tweet up with me handy, but I believe it was like 11 or 13 UFC fighters, 7 former Bellator fighters, a couple Dana White Contender Series guys. It was a great start, or a great card. And you started off with a guy in Tyson Nam, former UFC flyweight. Guy gets a first-round knockout, 4th knockout in a row. 42 years old, looking like the best of his career. He beat a guy in Ricky Bandejas, big-time Bellator fighter. But regardless, I digress because the next fight was another knockout. You have Kat Nelson, who beat a very game opponent. She's calling out Jessica Rose Clark, the former UFC female fighter, who was also on this card. And sneak peek, Jessica Rose Clark ducked her. Jessica Rose Clark is asking for Paige Van Zandt, which is another big name and a big fight that we can see coming in the future. But regardless,
loser has to do a free OnlyFans promo.
Yeah, maybe. I mean, live and free on YouTube. I don't know how YouTube would like that, though.
Live and free. Crack streams.
Hey, everybody's got their methods. Regardless, so Kat Nelson, that's a name to watch in dirty boxing. Regardless, I'll speed this up. A guy Dustin Bailey moves up the card, knocks out the hometown Sean Hotsung. This guy, Dustin Bailey, trains with the Wolf, who will be headlining Dirty Boxing 4. It's not official, but I guarantee you he'll be headlining Dirty Boxing 4 versus that guy, Jairzinho Rosenstrike, the new heavyweight champion. But Dustin Bailey, big upset win. We'll move forward because then the next fight, you see a guy in Alex Caceres. Everybody knows Bruce Leroy. Last-minute KO at the end of round 2. Unbelievable entertainment. You move forward and you keep going up the card. You find some names. Corey Jackson, he's now 3-0 or 4-0, excuse me, in dirty boxing. He's been on all 4 events, the 3 live events and the one that was not live. 4-0. Levi DaCosta, a guy you may have never heard of, but I know you've heard of Chase Sherman. He destroyed Chase Sherman over the course of 3 3-minute rounds and got the win there. Before we get to the featured prelim, which was a battle between Landon Quinones and Mike Breeden, 2 UFC names that I'm sure everybody at home recognizes. Landon Quinones, a guy who did not have a good UFC run after The Ultimate Fighter, dominated Mike Breeden, who talked and barked and kept saying, hit me, hit me, hit me, and kept getting hit. But Landon Quinones kept piecing him up. It was a great fight. You move forward, a guy in Milos Janicic, pay attention to him. First round KO within under a minute. That led up to a couple more fights. Phil Hawes fought to his former sparring partner, Sergey Martinov. Really close decision, split decision there. Or actually unanimous decision, excuse me. But Phil Hawes, really close fight. I think it could have gone either way. As I mentioned, Jessica Rose Clark. Everybody knows her from her UFC days. Another great win for her. But then you get to the big 3 fights. Those are the ones we want to really talk about. And I know I just went through maybe 12 fights. They were all bangers. Well, the first fight of that big 3, Bryan Battle, it took him less than a minute. He missed weight 2 weeks ago. He hit 186 on the dot. Now, granted, the guy he's fighting, 3-9 MMA record, was throwing looping overhands like it was a backyard school brawl. But Bryan Battle did what he was supposed to do. Yeah, and Bryan Battle put him down 50 seconds. He probably has another fight or 2, make weight again before you can get back to the UFC. That was the right step. Let me hear, though, your thoughts on Bryan Battle real quick before we move forward. How far do you think he is away from getting back?
I think he's extremely far, actually. I think he's going to, if he sticks with dirty boxing, he's going to have to up his level of competition for the UFC to look his way. He's going to have to make weight consistently. As of right now, I think he's several fights away, and I wouldn't be surprised if the UFC does take him back if they didn't offer him like a Dana White Contender Series fight. Honestly, I think that they might be that upset with him. I could absolutely see that happening. I'm not saying they would do it, but I could see them doing it. Really making him work his way back up. And it's unfortunate. It also, quite frankly, it pisses me off a little bit that you couldn't make weight for the fucking UFC. But now you make weight for dirty boxing?
Yeah, well, rumor has it he was drinking.
I think he lacks commitment, and I think it's I think it's ridiculous, quite honestly. The UFC is a top tier organization. I know you're not making more money fighting for dirty boxing. I know that. Yeah. And also, like, let's be real here. Comparatively to the UFC, nobody watches dirty boxing, right? So the fame, the accolades, they're not there, right? I'm not saying dirty boxing won't ever be anything, of course. You never know. Yeah. But I think from even a fan's perspective, I don't even want to consider him back in the UFC until he's shown that he can consistently make weight and that he's going to fight people better than 3-9 MMA record.
Yeah, and I think in a sense you're right. Obviously, I mean, dirty boxing is not the UFC. 38,000 was about where they were sitting at, pretty consistently in terms of their viewership numbers. And obviously it's not the UFC.
It's not horrible. It's just not UFC level.
And I will say one thing that folks who might watch it and expect, the crowd to be full all the way through the end, it's still a regional local promotion. So you have people that are only coming for their fighter and leaving. So a few seats being empty is not abnormal. But yeah, I mean, I agree. I don't think he's as far away as you say. I'll leave you with these thoughts. 7-1-1, the Ultimate Fighter winner. I think he will get let back if he can prove that he's disciplined and can do it. He's great on the mic. He has a great record. He has a great style, and he brings fans. He's American, which there's not a lot of fighters that are American these days in the UFC. So I do think, yes, this is not the right opponent to get him back in there, but I don't think he's all that far away.
Interesting. I guess only time will tell, right? We'll wait and see.
Absolutely. But let's wrap up the dirty boxing card real quick. Co-main event, Hector Lombard at the ripe age of 43 returns and proceeds to get knocked out in under 20 seconds. Guy named James Cannon, you might not know him. He's 30 years old, but he's a guy that's going to make noise in a striking sport like dirty boxing. He's got a real fun style. And then, of course, the main event. It was supposed to be the Wolf, Rob Perez, fighting Jairzinho Rozenstruik. He ended up, I believe, having an injury. That fight's going to end up coming up probably dirty boxing for the Wolf was at the event. He was loud as always. But Raheem Cleveland, coming off a big knockout win in his first ever fight, stepped up, or first ever dirty boxing fight, stepped up on short notice to take on Jairzinho Rozenstruik. And unfortunately for Raheem Cleveland, he got knocked out. Again, he has 18 MMA losses, and 4 of those are by KO. He's also been knocked out, I believe, in a couple other occasions. Now, dirty boxing, potentially in other sports. Regardless, Raheem Cleveland is a good vet. Jairzinho showed him there's levels to this game. It took him less than 2 minutes to flatline him, to headline the event, get that first ever dirty boxing belt. For whatever it's worth, it is a belt. It is not the UFC.
Ugly ass.
He woke up in his bed with that belt the next morning and a nice big payday. So I'm sure, credit to Jairzinho. No, I didn't want to see him get cut. All credit goes to him. I know I've been dominating the dirty boxing conversation. I know you didn't watch it, but I know you saw plenty of highlights. So what maybe did I miss? What do you want to kind of finish this conversation with?
I think it's an interesting organization. I think it has some potential. What their ceiling is versus what their floor is. I'm not too sure yet. They're obviously at, like you said, only 4 events in total. I think it's something to keep an eye on. If I had to bet, I don't think it will ever become anything too huge, but I think they could potentially turn it into a solid regional organization where, hey, maybe eventually we could see people start in dirty boxing and make their way to the UFC or the PFL or, things like that. Maybe they can make their way up, who knows? Obviously it's not full on MMA. So
not sure. Or at least it could be a second endeavor.
Yeah, absolutely. Could be. This could definitely be a good thing for fighters who retire, and still have that itch to fight. I could totally see them doing that, kind of like the bare knuckle thing, except bare knuckle's a little bit more gruesome. I think a lot of retired fighters have gone that route. I think I would personally probably do the dirty boxing route if it were me. Take less damage, but
yeah. Oh, well. And hey, Aiden, before we move on to our next topic, because we are going to talk about UFC Paris. I know one thing that we were hoping to potentially discuss today that we probably won't have time because we do listen to all of you in the comments. So I guess now's a great time to please like the video, leave a comment down below. Let us know your thoughts. Let us know what you want to talk about. But in doing that, let's have a question of the day, Aiden. For everybody watching at home, who do you think should be the main event of the UFC White House event, which Dana White has recently confirmed? And I think we'll be talking about this next week, and we'll bring up some of those comments back onto the screen. But I guess before we move fully on, Aiden, let me hear your thoughts on a potential UFC White House card real quick, without giving away too much of your thoughts for next week.
Oh, that's tough. I think in an ideal scenario where I can pick the 2 fighters that I want to headline and I can guarantee the fight happens. Dream world, Tom Aspinall, John Jones. John Jones is an American. He has a reputation for winning. We know he wants to be on the card. I understand that the UFC doesn't want him on the card because they don't trust him, and I totally get that. I think that would be my dream fight. If we're going a more realistic route, I think you just have to go with one of the more entertaining fighters you have and some sort of American. And I think the most entertaining fighter in the UFC right now, I think it's Ilia Topuria. I think we do Ilia Topuria versus, as much as I don't want to see this fight, Justin Gaethje. He's an American. Maybe for the main event you say, screw it, who cares if it's an American fighter? We just want to see the most entertaining fight we can. Maybe you do something like Ilia versus Patty.
Or Ilia Islam.
Ilia Islam, that would be crazy. That would be a fantastic one. I don't know how they would feel about, there not being an American fighter headlining the card, but I know I would tune in.
Yeah. So for everybody watching at home, leave us who you want your prediction to be for the UFC White House main event. And we'll definitely be talking about that next week. But I think for today, let's go into UFC Paris.
Oh. All right.
Oh, oui.
Which fight specifically do you want to talk about? I just want to say, for a fight night, I think this is a solid card.
Yeah, and I think the big thing with this card is I think it's top heavy. You got a great co-main.
It's top heavy, but there's some other fights that I like.
Yeah, you don't have the ranked names or the big superstars or young prospects that we might want to see, but we have some really fun fights. I think the one that I want to talk about here and now today, and I don't think we're making predictions necessarily, which is good because I'm not ready for that, but it's the one on the bottom of your screen right there, Pitbull versus Lucian Keita. Now, most people might not know who Keita is, but he was a two-weight champion at 145 and 155 on the regional scene, has a great record, an unbelievable highlight reel, and this, to me, seems like a setup spot. I think the UFC wanted Pitbull to win when he got to the UFC. I think that they thought a win over Yair Rodriguez gets him the title fight versus Volk. That failed. I don't think they wanted him to win his last fight. I think here he is. They've got a young European star. The UFC's brought in a bunch of them, which we'll see a few guys on debuts coming straight to the UFC. No contender series, no tough, none of that. There's a couple guys that we'll see on this card. I think the UFC might have some plans to go to Europe next year. They're really trying to invest in that market, whether it's because PFL's invested in there or otherwise being the reasoning. I think it's very interesting, and I think Lucian Keita is the face of that. Besides, obviously, Ilia Topuria being from Spain and some of the other guys they already have that are European-based, this guy is that next generation that they're trying to develop. So that fight's going to be super fun. That's my prospect fight on the rise. I think there's a couple other really fun fights worthy of talking about. But what do you think? What's one undercard fight that you think is really worth our discussion?
I think as I scroll through this, I for some reason, the one that I really want to see is Paul Craig versus Modestas. I like Paul Craig. I like Paul Craig. Really good jiu-jitsu guy. I love jiu-jitsu. I do jiu-jitsu, so I really enjoy watching it. And I just like Paul Craig. I think he kind of got fucked in his last fight when he threw the up kick that didn't connect, and then Rodolfo Balacho was like, "Ooh," and like totally faked the knockout. But so I like that Paul Craig got re-signed. Very happy about that. So I'm excited for this fight. But I think the fight I'm the single most excited for is this one right here. Mauricio Ruffy versus Benoit Saint Denis. If Ruffy gets this win, he's going to launch himself into the top 15. Benoit Saint Denis, despite, maybe not being as good as people originally thought he would be, he's still a solid fighter. We've seen that. And I think that this could very well be the start of a launch to the top for someone like Mauricio Ruffy.
Yeah. And I think you said it great there. I mean, Benoit is fun. Benoit, I think, is underrated now because I think people overrated him before. A couple L's, and I think now we're looking at a guy whose age is a problem. So I think that's why this fight is made here. I think the UFC probably would love to see Mauricio Ruffy and Caio Borralho get wins over in Europe to kind of boost them up to that title level that they would love these fighting nerds guys to be on. But I think you're right. That's such an interesting clash of styles. Obviously, Ruffy trains with Borralho and those guys from fighting nerds. So you have to imagine his grappling's pretty good. But Benoit Saint Denis is a different type of grappler. But then again, you got Ruffy, who's a different type of striker that Benoit Saint Denis never fought. So that's going to be fun.
And Benoit's a weird one because he looks so old, but he's young.
Yeah.
I'm looking at his face and I'm like, that guy's 40.
Yeah.
And I think he's 28.
And I think that's all his time in the I think he's older than that. I think he's in his 30s. Let's because he was like the equivalent of their Green Beret.
Let's figure it out. Oh, does it not say
we can
directly
learn
on the website? Oh, he's 29.
They should have. Okay, okay. I thought he was in his.
I'm telling you, he looks like an older man.
That's all the time serving the army.
Yeah, I guess so. I mean, I don't know. I'm picking Ruffy to win this fight, but I think it could be a good one. And obviously, the main card or the main event, it's going to be a good one. Huge implications for the division.
I'll give it to you this way. I think Imavov wins this fight.
I think so too, but I do think Kyle will put up a solid fight.
And I mean, I don't think anybody envisioned Imavov knocking out Izzy. I don't imagine Imavov knocking out Kyle.
But I never see it until it happens. Like, you never envision it, and then it happens, and you go, oh, okay, well, I should have saw that coming.
Yeah. Now, can you scroll down to the featured fight real quick? Balaji, Mason Jones. I think we'd be doing a disservice. Oh, just up a little bit. Yeah.
Oh, there we go. My bad.
No, you're all good. Major disservice not talking about this. Obviously, Mason Jones had that super fun fight in Iowa versus Jeremy Stevens.
Hardest hitting 145er.
Belgian. Yeah. This fight, I'd be shocked if you see it hit the ground. And this fight's going to be a war. A war. These guys hit hard. They have relatively high outputs, and they both like to come forward and strike. That's going to be a fun fight. I also think, just for the folks at home that might not be as knowledgeable, can we scroll through the rest of the card real quick? Because I think there's a couple fun fights. Obviously, Faris Ziam, honestly, is taking a little bit of a step down with Kaue Fernandez. I thought Ziam would be very close to the top 15. That's a great fight for the Frenchman in his hometown. Umar Sy is back. That's a guy that laid a big goose egg versus Manyfield, but Manyfield's a stud. Hibero is a different matchup. Here you'll see a couple of those guys making the debuts. Axel Sola and Ante Delia.
It's crazy being a number 7 ranked fighter and you're on the prelims, I will say. Now, granted, it is heavyweight, but
and it's 39-year-old Marcin Tybura.
Yeah.
But that fight's going to be fun, even though it's two vets. UFC's been trying to get Delia. But then this fight right here, Gustafsson versus Renat. That's probably the Twitter war fight of the week. Do you have any thoughts on that one?
Man, who were their last fights against? I don't even remember.
So Gustafsson knocked out Chaos Williams. Right. Renat, I believe, was the Carlos Leal fight. I believe was his last one. So Renat's technically coming off a win that I think, if I'm remembering this correctly, a win that he did not deserve.
Let's take a look.
I think the thing with Gustafsson is everybody loves his style. I'm not going to say the word that he uses to describe his style, but
he won a unanimous decision against Leal.
And really hard and aggressive, and he's fun. This is a tactician versus a brawler. This is a fun clash of styles here, if you ask me. I think this is a tough one to call. I think Renat will be a little bit too technical for Andreas, who's a little bit older for a prospect, although he is fun.
Yeah, I mean, being a 34-year-old prospect is it's interesting. It's interesting. But, I mean, who doesn't like watching a brawler? There is always the worry of when you have a mix of styles like this, that the fight may very well just end up being a boring one.
Absolutely.
Sometimes styles just don't mix well. Sometimes they do. Sometimes you see, two people with opposite styles and it's a banger fight. I don't know that this is going to be that. I have a feeling that this might be a piss break, but we'll see. There's no way to know for sure till it happens.
And honestly, I might disagree with you there, because I think Renat could find a finish. And I think Andreas could find a finish. I do think that this will be a matter of whose style takes over.
Gotcha.
I don't necessarily think it'll be a clash as much as it will be a crash.
Gotcha.
It's going to be a car crash, not a clash.
I see.
If that makes sense.
I see. Okay.
In my opinion. Enough.
Why don't you go ahead and educate the people on your favorite fighter here?
Of course. And of course, the question of the day was, who do you want to see on the UFC White House card? If you don't like that question of the day, the other question of the day is, who's your favorite fighter? And we'll have that discussion. I think mine's a little bit different. I'd like to preface this conversation with, in every sport, I kind of like the grinders. In football, being the NFL, I like the special teams guys. In soccer, I like the midfielders, the guys that put the tackles in and do the dirty work. That's always been kind of my thing in sports. I like the underrated guy. Marvin Vettori for me is the underrated guy in MMA. I mean, you look back on his first fights with the UFC, even before then, the Italian Dream. I think this makes sense with the Paris card. He is the guy that comes out ready to fight every single time. He's got great wrestling defense, and honestly, he can hang in on the ground and do a decent job. But his bread and butter is striking. And if it's a Marvin Vettori fight, you know it's going to be striking. And just like the Brendan Allen fight that he had recently, which unfortunately was a loss, but that's a war where his face is going to be red. There's going to be blood. But guess what? He's not going to stop moving forward. He's going to keep throwing his very, I don't want to say basic because that's disrespectful to his technique, but his basic combinations. He throws a lot of straights and hooks. He doesn't do anything too fancy. He throws some leg kicks in there, but he's very meat and potatoes. But he hustles. I think my favorite fight of his probably is the fight of the night with Jared Cannonier, one of his first main events. He's had quite a few main events over the years. His battles with Israel Adesanya obviously come to mind. I think his first fight that really, to me, made me a huge fan was 2020 against Jack Hermanson. That might have actually been his first main event, which he won that one. I mean, this guy's just put on war after war. He's fought the who's who between Paulo Costa, Israel Adesanya, Kevin Holland, Robert Whittaker. I mean, he's fought everybody at the top. Now he's on the back end of his career. He's coming off, 2 losses in a row, 2 decisions, 2 wars against guys that are maybe primarily grapplers. But you know what? He didn't get grappled. And at the end of the day, he put his heart on the line every single fight, every single second of the fight. I think people might clown on me because he's not the most technical. He might not be the most skilled. Who cares?
When you see a guy put his shorts on backwards, you gotta respect it. You gotta respect it.
I mean, this is a guy, he just doesn't care. He doesn't care to get hit. He doesn't
care
what
chin on this guy. Crazy noggin. Pause.
Yes. Yeah, that is kind of a crazy statement you made, but yes. If you're talking top chins in the UFC, I actually wrote an article on that once. He was number 2 on my list. I mean, this is a guy that he goes to war. If you're in the arena on a day that he's fighting, you know he is fighting for your money. You are going to get money's worth for that ticket. So that's why I like Marvin Vettori. I felt like I had to give a little bit more of an explanation because it's a little bit of an oddball pick. I think if you were to ask me some of my other favorite fighters, Alex Pereira, easily he's up there. I learned some Portuguese just so I could cheer on my boy when he's fighting in Miami. DDP, obviously I've been to Canada and now Chicago to see him fight. I love DDP. He's a great fighter. He's also very good on the mic and does all the dirty work and all those things. And I think outside of that, there's a number of fighters I really love. I mean, from the Julian Arosas and the Billy Quarantillos to the Ilia Topuras and the Charles Oliveira. But to me, Marvin Vettori sticks out. And that's why today I brought him as my favorite UFC fighter. Hopefully we can see him in there soon, but not too soon. Heal up, my friend. The Italian Dream will be returning soon, maybe to one of these European cards that I'm speculating will occur next year. But Aiden, talk to me. I know we've had a little bit of banter back and forth. Talk to me your thoughts on my list, and then hit me with who.
I mean, I think all your fighters are entertaining in one way or another. I like Alex Pereira. I'm not the biggest DDP fan, but I don't dislike the guy. I think he's phenomenal on the mic. I think that's something he really has going for him. And Marvin Vettori is just kind of a goofball. He's not the smartest individual ever, but he's a fun fighter. And he's got some funny moments. That being said, my favorite fighter is my sugar boo, Max Holloway. I love Max Holloway. Every time this guy fights, I'm watching and I'm sweating because I'm nervous that he's going to lose. When he lost against Ilia Topuria, my heart broke into a million pieces. I can't show you right now, but I actually do have a signed picture of Max Holloway on my wall. Max Holloway's he's my favorite fighter, man. And now my favorite fight of his, I mean, he's got so many good ones to choose from. I mean, the Calvin Kattar fight comes to mind. I mean, that was a war, but a one-sided war. I mean, Kattar had nothing to do with Max Holloway's striking. Max Holloway set records that fight. Dana White even said that he considered that to be one of the fights where he was worried that Calvin Kattar was going to go in the back and die. because he took that much damage. He actually said that. Like, there's a clip of him saying that. So, Calvin Kattar, that fight was great. I think the Korean Zombie fight was great. A great knockout. Korean Zombie went out swinging. I remember watching that one and being like, just like, whoa. That was a mismatch, but still a good fight anyways. The Gaethje fight, UFC 300, that's a classic. I mean, I was watching that at my parents' house, and it was late at night, and I couldn't help but scream. I mean, he put belt to ass the whole fight, and then obviously the knockout at the end was probably the craziest thing I've actually watched live on a UFC fight. The Dustin Poirier fight was really good too. He finally got a win over DP, so that made me very happy. As for some of my honorable mentions, I love Peter Yan. I think he's a great boxer. I think he's a really good overall MMA fighter. I mean, you see him when he threatens submissions. He pulls out the crazy trips he has. He's a good wrestler, a good boxer. Like, all around, he's a great fighter. One of my favorite to play with as in UFC 5.
Yeah.
And just overall, what a good fighter. And then a guy who's more recently become one of my favorites is JDM, Jack Della Maddalena. Part of this is because he trains with Paul Craig, or sorry, not Paul Craig, Craig Paul. Am I mixing? Oh, Craig Jones. I always mix that up. Man. Craig Jones.
And that's something we could have talked about. CGI, Big John McCarthy's back reffing fights.
I was actually listening to the Mighty Mouse Craig Jones podcast last night. Craig Jones is awesome. Great fighter. Just a funny guy. And
I'm not gonna lie, I had to turn that interview off about 20 minutes in.
Why is that?
I like the Mighty Cast or the Mighty channel, Demetrius Johnson. There's a couple things being critical, and Mighty Mouse, you would destroy me, and I'm a fan of you, so don't take this the wrong way. I think his voice is a little bit annoying, and I think he's a very bad interviewer. I think he has no idea what he's doing if it's not a pre-planned question. So I think in these conversations where it's free-flowing, it's oftentimes kind of choppy because I feel like DJ kind of overtakes the conversation, and it kind of was pissing me off that Craig Jones kept trying to get Mikey Musumeci to drink. I'm like, bro, like, he's a grown man. If he doesn't want to drink, he doesn't need to drink with you. Like, we can grow up a little bit. So I was really excited for it. And I think their production's incredible. I know Mighty Mouse has his guy Michael in the background that does the production. They do great work. I'm not trying to hate on it. It wasn't that episode.
I just like Craig Jones. Keep jiu-jitsu gay. I'm all for it. They're making it cool again and gay, and I love both of those. Shout out jiu-jitsu, shout out Craig Jones. I can't believe it. I always call him Paul Craig or Craig Paul. It always happens, dude. Always happens.
And just don't call him Jake Paul.
That'd be a good fight. I'd like to see that in an MMA fight.
But
yeah, JDM, great fighter. He's got really clean boxing, and I think his overall style, like with his takedown defense, is really good. I like that he keeps the high guard, and when someone goes for a takedown, he changes levels with them, and I think that's a really smart way to not get taken down while still protecting your head. It's something we don't see from a lot of fighters, so I really like that technical aspect of it. But those are probably I don't know necessarily my top 3. Max Holloway is definitely my number 1, but those Peter Yan and JDM are definitely some honorable mentions for me. I really enjoy those guys. But I think that's all we got for this episode.
Yeah, and I mean, that's a great list. I think let us know your list down below. As I said before, make sure you like the episode and subscribe to the Scraps channel. Turn on those notifications so you can check all the content out, not just the Scrapyard, but we'll be back weekly. We've been recording these on Sundays, releasing them on Mondays. That'll more than likely continue for the foreseeable future, but definitely give us a follow on social media to make sure you keep track of
comment
that.
Your favorite fighters. We will. If we get enough comments, we'll be throwing them on. In the next episode, we'll be reacting to your lists. And we'll also be reacting to what you have to say about the potential White House cards. So just feel free to comment. We read them. Yeah. We like them. You might be featured in the next episode. Who knows?
But with that being said, that's all I've got for today. I hope everybody comes back next week. But Aiden, closes us out.
We'll see you guys next week. We're like Jake said, we're going to be here every week. We're very, what's the word? We are committed to this show. We have a great time recording it, and we'd love to see you guys here. Make sure to comment, obviously let us know what you like and don't like about the show. We'll do our best to make it better and better each week. But that's all we got for you guys today. We love you, and we'll see you next time. Peace.